Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm Mark Fisher.
And I'm Megan Fuller. So earlier this week, you and Carl went fishing up at Lake Geneva, right?
Yep.
It was cold, and it's interesting. We talk about like fishing in cold weather, and you really actually did it. Luckily, I got to stay all nice and curled up in bed. You didn't force me to come with you, so I really appreciate that. But are we gonna see some like clips?
Yeah, Megan, we're gonna take a look at that video coming up in today's episode. The one thing I need to point out is it was a cold day, and not just a cold day and a string of them. This was the first cold day that we had. You know, we had 2 days that were in the upper 60s, close to 70 prior to that. Then Carl and I get on the water, and we're looking, and it's probably in the low 30s when we got out there in the morning. It was a cold day, first major cold front, wind coming out of the north. I was not optimistic about the way things were going to go. So I had a game plan in terms of what I was going to do, and you're going to see that in the video coming up.
Okay. But before we get to that, we want to remind you guys to please subscribe. Our numbers are going way up really fast, and it is so fun to watch. So please subscribe. Please like the videos and write your comments as usual. If you guys put in suggestions, we will try to put those into videos. Also, we want to do kind of a challenge where you guys pick 1 or 2 of your favorite videos and then share them with a friend or whomever, just so we can kind of continue to grow that community that we're developing, and do what you guys really want us to. So thank you for that.
Absolutely, guys. You'd be doing us a big favor if you would pick out one of your favorite episodes from Mark Fisher Outdoors, share that with a buddy, and let's try and expand this Mark Fisher Outdoors community. So we're going to get on to this fishing trip on Lake Geneva. Pay attention. That one thing I do want to remind you, stick around, because after the clips from the fishing, I'm going to share with you something that I learned after the fact that I think is really important. So go ahead and watch these clips, and then we'll come back here afterwards. There we go. Hey, it's a fish. Ned rig. That's what we kind of assumed would be going on today. Nice,
I think it's a piece of fish, isn't it?
nice, slow presentation.
And what trailer did you have on?
All right, let's get them in the boat first, huh? There we go.
A robo worm.
No. This is a Z-Man turd.
Oh, okay.
So we got that, and there's our first smallie that earned me $1. So far, I think I got $3. First fish, biggest fish, most fish.
And I gotta come in the boat.
And that one was in the boat. There's another one. There's a good one. Oh, it was a better hit. Let's put it that way. I don't know that it's a better fish. Oh, it's not. It's a pike. That's why the hit was different. Oh, oh. Oh, fish slime in Carl's boat. On pike. And we gotta retie.
Mark's hooked up. Somewhere out there, way out there.
Ned rig again. You know, you gotta hold it sideways, Carl. Sideways.
Sideways.
Oh, it's a little one.
Oh, okay.
That's all right. We'll get him in here. Another one on the Ned rig, huh?
Yeah, I'm trying to find him in the water for us. There he is. Largy.
Largemouth. Small little largemouth, but still a Ned rig on your. Oh, we don't tell that. Okay. You got him?
Got it. Yes.
Little largemouth. Carl, I switched rods. I think that, you know, with that pike
Yes.
that I had on, I had broken off I think my leader was too short, and that's what, you know, so I continued fishing, but that leader just didn't have the length on it that I wanted, so I switched over to a different rod that had a longer fluoro leader and got bit, so that could be part of it.
There you go.
We'll see. We'll keep going. So Megan, as you can see, it wasn't a very productive day. A few fish, not all of them even bass, but you know, and Carl was not able to even bring one fish into the boat. The thing that I thought about this trip a lot afterwards. Like you know, when you have a bad day, you can either write it off and not think about it, or it can kind of get to you about, you know, what was going on. And there's a lot of excuses. Oh, big cold front, and wind was blowing out in the north, and it's late October, and there's a lot of things, and no one else was catching them. So there were a lot of ways for us to just kind of blow it off and say, well, it just wasn't our day.
Right.
But I did like the fact that I chose to go small and go finesse-y, and obviously caught a few. And I was just throwing a little Ned rig. This is a Z-Man Ned rig. It was a 1/10 ounce head, and I was using the Z-Man TRD, the little TRD Ned, and this had some chartreuse in it. One of the things that kind of clued me in on that, I had the idea to throw it. I knew that it was small finesse and that it wasn't gonna take much for a fish to go for it if they wanted it, and I got bit pretty quick on it. So that's what kind of said, okay, keep doing this.
Okay.
But I've talked about this in some of our other October issues. When you're doing that, they're gonna bite, but they aren't active. You're gonna have to put that little bait in front of a fish for them to bite it, and that means you're not covering a lot of water. It's a slow presentation, and it's gonna be a slow day when that happens. In hindsight, Carl actually had more bites than I did. Did not land one fish, but which means he was getting reaction bites. He was throwing and swimming a jig, which is a big common thing to do on Lake Geneva. And he's good at it. He's really good at it. He can tick the grass, get that jig to swim over the top of that grass, get it caught, rip it out, and get reaction bites. And that he's very good at it. And though he got several bites during the day, probably had 5 or 6 bites during the day. On a day like Saturday, that would have been a good day, but he didn't land any.
Okay.
And to me, what I'm thinking is we should have learned from that and said, wait a minute, if that's what's going on, we want to get reaction bites. You remember the October episode we did
Yep.
where you were picking baits out of the pumpkin?
Yep, absolutely.
This is what we should have been throwing. Is just a little kind of lipless crankbait kind of deal. Because in my opinion, we could have done what Carl was doing. We could have taken a bait and ran it along the weeds that were coming up off the bottom, tick the weeds. When those fish were coming up to hit that jig, they weren't, it was a reaction bite and they weren't really committed to eating. They were just kind of reacting to it. One single hook in that jig. So they were hitting it and not really solid and he wasn't getting it hooked up. But if we're throwing a little lipless like this with the 2 sets of treble hooks, we would have hooked those fish, or at least more of them, just because they'd have gotten themselves hooked just by virtue of going after the bait.
Right.
It took me about 12 hours to think about what we did wrong. And at that point, I'm thinking, man, I want to do over here. I want to go and throw these things. And throwing a lipless crankbait would have been in my opinion, right around noon or 1 o'clock, I should have said, this was the thing that I need to be doing, Carl. And he could have kept throwing that jig and I had to throw this. And I think at that point, we would have seen a different outcome. So I wanted to share that part with you. One of the things, guys, about fishing, we've talked about this, you want to solve the puzzle. Sometimes you don't solve the puzzle until you get home and the game's over, but you can apply that information to the next time you go fishing. And unfortunately, that's what I had to do in this situation. But sharing it with you guys is what we're all about, and we will see you again next week for 5 more episodes of Mark Fisher Outdoors. Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Bye.